Welcome to Unofficial Commentary by the Unqualified. I am Adam. Alright, quick housekeeping thing first. Today is the 28th, tomorrow's the 29th. 29th is the day my plan usually renews, but we're short on cash right now, so it won't renew until the 31st. So we're going to have a truncated website for the time being, or truncated feed for the time being. Only the most recent episodes are going to be up. Fortunately, because the episodes are so much shorter than they used to be, more recent episodes will be up, but the older episodes will be MIA until the 31st. And that'll be across all the podcasts. So let's talk about our today's topic. I've been trying to get more to what I think is the root of our issue, as why are we the way that we are as Americans? A few weeks back, I did an episode, or months back, a few episodes back, we'll call it that, a few episodes back, I did an episode about how I think one of the things that really formulates the American way of thinking and why people support Trump so much is we have this us versus them mentality, where it's us, and then there's always the other, and the fight between us and the other, even if there isn't actually an other, it's just, the presumption of another distracts from other issues. It makes it easier to govern by creating another, because it goes deep into our country's, foundations, coming from war and our deep, not love of war, but our worship of soldiers, police, general, war. So that was one thing. And then today I saw on Twitter, I forgot who it was that tweeted it, but someone said, why do Republicans routinely vote against their interests? Because a lot of Republicans are poor. Not all Republicans are rich billionaires. And then I was thinking about it. And it goes back to an article I read on BuzzFeed a few months ago about how millennials were basically sold a false bill about how if you work hard, you'll achieve the American dream, the family, the white picket fence, the whole 9 yards, the stereotypical Pleasantville family. Now, that's not the case in real life, because wages have been driven down by freelancing and by other means that, businesses have been taking advantage of to get people to pay people less to do the same amount of work, and does not go over minimum wage laws. So it's a fun little thing that we have to deal with now. And I think what it comes down to is that when you hear these taxes that people are proposing on these millions and millions and millions of dollars, over 10 million, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is saying 70% on income over 10 million. And people say, no, let's not do that. But it's like, why are people saying that? Why are people who aren't anywhere near making that much money saying that? Because the money would ultimately be funneled back to them. It wouldn't be funneled, it's not going to the president's pocket or Congress's pocket. It gets funneled back into the country. Why are they against it? And it worked in the 50s when the marginal tax rate was over 90%, because it forced businesses to reinvest in their own businesses. So why are people against it now? And I think the reason is that every person who is poor and a Republican see this as a temporary setback. They don't see this as their lot in life. They see the tax rate at 70% for making over $10 million as that will be me one day. I will be making that $10 million a year. And I'll have to give all my money to the government. And I won't get to keep it. Okay? That, as well as, inaccurate reporting based on the fact that everything needs to be a snippet to fit into a tweet or to fit into a headline and all that. But the view that that's going to be our what's it called? That's going to be me one day. That's what it comes down to, is that everyone thinks that one day it's going to be them, and it may not, and that's the reality we have to accept. And why younger people have accepted that, I've noticed a lot of. We're not going to be the ones in these mansions, okay? We're not going to be the ones who are going to be making these billions and billions of dollars that, we have to worry about what happens when 70% of the top, anything over 10 million gets taken. That's not a concern that most people have. And people are concerned that one day it may be their concern. And that's not a concern you should have. So when we hear these marginal tax rates might be going up and all of that, think to yourself, right now, what do I need? I need healthcare. I need more learning opportunities, more opportunities in education. There are so many things that we actually need for people who are making substantially less, because the majority of the country doesn't make $10 million. The majority, it's not even close to a majority of the country that makes enough money where that should be their concern. Yet the outcry about it is because they think that they're going to. And it's because the rich are the ones who are putting out and saying, this is a problem, we shouldn't have this. Today, MSNBC ran an article about, not MSNBC, NBC News ran an article about how the tax cuts that were for the upper tiers that were put in place in 2017 or 2018 didn't impact the workers, and I can personally attest to that. I work for an American retail organization. I'm a supervisor in for my full-time job. I'm making just over $15 an hour, but I'm on Long Island, so anyone who tells you that $15 an hour is a livable wage is like, yeah, but like $15 an hour, it's only $31,000. Take into account living expenses, take into account how much everything else costs. And $15 an hour is nice. $15 an hour is livable in some parts of the country, but not in most of New York, not in D.C., not in Los Angeles, not in these very high, expensive areas to live. And before you say just move, if you can't afford to live there, how can you afford to just pack up your things and leave? So the problem isn't let's just keep increasing the minimum wages. Let's create programs to make it where people don't need to worry about working these minimum wage jobs and having to make ends meet for their family. But that's not the point I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying to make, I keep going off on these tangents, but what I was going for is these tax cuts hit. And between the time that the tax cuts took effect and today, we have had 4 separate instances at our company where at the corporate level they cut hours to the stores for customer service associates and everything like that. So I think we can honestly say, my company employs, like in my store alone, there are 30 people. There are 18 stores in the area, 4 areas in the region. It employs nationwide a couple, I would say, tens of thousands of people, and you're taking away. You get more money at the top levels, and you're taking away people's job security, because we've had people quit because they can't get hours, because it's not our fault as a store, it's that they keep cutting the hours that we get, despite the fact that, we cut the taxes to the businesses so they'll reinvest it. No, that's not the case. The only proven instance of reinvigorating the market through tax changes was in the 50s when they put the 90% tax on the upper tiers, because then what happened was people would rather have put the money into their business than have to give it to the government, because then they can make more. And that's what the problem is. We want the prosperity of the 50s. Well, maybe not the prosperity of the 50s. People who say they want the 50s back, they want other things, not just the financial prosperity of the 50s. But they want that, but they don't want to put the policies in place economically that made the 50s work. I'm not saying we need another world war to, kick it off, but it would help if we instituted these policies again. And look, if I made $10 million a year, I would have no problem with 70% of everything over $10 million going to the government. And I know a lot of people feel the same way. And the problem is the people who ask you, if it were you who were doing it, then would you be so happy about giving away 70% of your income over $10 million? Number one, they think it's 70% of all your income, not just income over $10 million. But would you feel comfortable giving that much money away? And 9 times out of 10, the person asking you that question is not someone making $10 million. There's someone who thinks that one day they'll be making $10 million. Because the American dream has always been work hard. The harder you work, the more you make. And people believe that one day it'll be them in that situation. Statistically, not the case. And I'm not saying we shouldn't work hard, and I'm not saying we shouldn't try and aspire to make that much money. That's how you get these million and billionaires who are doing these things. I'm not saying that we shouldn't aim for that. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't try to hit those highs. But what I'm saying is, if you, at that point, why is there a concern over what happens with $10 million? Most people don't even have a concept of what $10 million can buy. They just hear 10 million and they're like, oh, that doesn't seem that much. And it's like, no, but really it is. I've been working for this company, and I just started making over $30,000 2 years ago. So in the 2 years, I've made $60,000, and I've been making barely making ends meet. If I were making $60,000 a year, the amount of money I made in 2 years, if I made that in one, I would be so fine with that. 90,000, I'd be able to, live comfortably. So everything above that is just frills and, nonsense and things that you don't need. That's the porcelain Dalmatian in your front yard, the nonsense that isn't necessary. And that's what people don't understand. They think that 10 million is not necessary. No one needs 10 million to live. It's nice. It's nice to have, but it's not necessary to live. So, let's wrap up there, because I kind of lost my train of thought at one point and got awkward. So, we'll end off there. But yeah. My point is to sum up is that going off of what I said, previously with the adversarial nature of our country being one of the causes, it's the pride of our country. We're a very proud country. Is it misguided? Is it wrong to be proud? And is it wrong to assume and be ambitious? It's not wrong to be ambitious. Ambition drives us, and ambition is what makes the country great. But we shouldn't discourage ambition blindly. But the thought that everyone's going to one day be at that point, and that we should be concerned for what could happen 10, 15, 20 years from now, what our tax rate's going to be if we continue to work hard, and to think that that's going to make me cut down on how hard I'm going to work based on what I think's going to happen, that's the absurdity in all of this. And that's where we'll wrap up for today. I've been Adam. You can follow me on Twitter at AdamTaylor792, and we'll be back probably next week with another episode.